All right, guys, we hear this all the time. Focus on your goals, set clear goals. It's all about the goals. Where do you envision yourself? Where do you see yourself ending up? But let me tell you, if you're trying to learn a language and you're focused on your goals, you're focused on the wrong thing. Let's talk about why. What's up, language leaders? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Erica, here to help you love, learn, and live a new language. We focus on Spanish on this channel, but today's tip applies to absolutely any language that you may be learning. The inspiration from this video comes from a book I've just read, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Amazing book. I'll link to it below if you are interested in reading it. So one of the main ideas behind this book is that we need to stop focusing so much on our goals and instead focus on systems. So what does that mean? What's the difference? Well, goals are the results that we want to achieve, but systems are the processes that we put into place to help us get there. And essentially, systems are the habits that we form. So yes, in order to know what systems to put into place in our life, we do have to start with a goal. So goals are not bad, goals are not evil, but oftentimes we find as language learners and as humans that we set out to do this thing, but as bad as we want this thing, the daily habits that we have are just not helping us get there. And we blame motivation. We say, I'm just not motivated enough. Maybe we go on to Erica Ray's channel and watch a few videos on motivation. And we may get fired up for a few days, but after a few days, we're back to our old habits and nothing much has changed. So why is this happening? Well, it's not a problem with our goals. It's not a problem with our motivation. It's a problem with our systems. So when I think about this concept personally, I kind of imagine a pyramid or an inverted funnel, if you will. And here at the top, we have our overarching large goal. And then a little further down in the middle, we have our set of specific goals, our SMART goals, which are specific and measurable and actionable and all of those things that we're actively working towards. But then at the very bottom of this pyramid, the area that takes up the most space, the most time, and really the most important things, which everything else is based on, are simply our daily habits. What are we doing every day? Our achievements are going to be a direct result of our daily habits. So we set this large goal of learning Spanish, for example, and we say, I want to learn Spanish because my dream is to move to a Spanish-speaking country. Or I live here in a Spanish-speaking country and I get by okay. I kind of, seek out the people who speak English, but how much better would it be? How much would the quality of my life improve if I were actually able to integrate myself into the language and the culture? So we have this large objective here at the top of the pyramid. And so then we try to start figuring out what are some of the things that we need to do. Maybe we find out, hey, reading daily, reading out loud daily is going to help me with my vocabulary and my comprehension and my pronunciation and my speaking. So let me start doing that. Let me incorporate that into my routine. And we may even get pretty specific about it. We can say, okay, I want to do this every day for 10 minutes. I want to read Spanish every day for 10 minutes. And we say, okay, I'm going to do this for a month and then I'm going to evaluate. Maybe I'll read for a longer period of time every day. Maybe I'll incorporate something else. And we think this is a great goal. This is specific and measurable and attainable and realistic and time bound. And it is. And we're going hard with that for a few days. We're doing really well. We're reading Spanish for 10 minutes every day. And then one day life happens. It's late. I'm just too tired. And then the next day, we remember, we have some time, but we just prefer to do something else that's more immediately rewarding. And then the next day we just forget. So we slip back into our old habits, or in this case, we stop our newly formed habit that we were trying to establish. Why is it so hard to stick with things that we know are going to help us? Well, one reason is that the immediate reward is often very small. If we read Spanish out loud for 10 minutes today, It's very unlikely that our speaking would have improved dramatically by tomorrow. It's highly unlikely that we would have learned enough new words to suddenly make that podcast that we were trying to understand comprehensible. And since we know that these results won't come immediately, human nature creeps in and tells us to just not do it. And the thing is, habits appear to make no real difference until we cross a certain threshold. The book that I referenced earlier uses the illustration of ice. If there's a block of ice and it's at 25 degrees, and then the temperature rises by 1 degree, we're at 26, now we're at 27, we're at 30, the ice, nothing's happening. We don't see anything happening until it reaches 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's when the ice begins to melt. There was seemingly no more of a difference between 30 and 31 than 31 and 32, but that's the threshold, and that's when the ice is going to start to melt. The same thing applies to our habits. Daily habits accumulate and they add up to massive results, but we won't always see those results immediately. In fact, we usually won't see dramatic results immediately. And so since we want those dramatic results, we think, well, I'm just going to take dramatic action. I'm going to study for 2 hours a day because then I'm going to get results faster. If you really could stick with that, you would, but most of us can't. I know that I can't. I don't have 2 hours a day to study French. I certainly didn't study Spanish for 2 hours a day when I was learning Spanish. But it's not necessary. It's the tiny changes and the habits and the compound interest effect, if you will, that ends up creating massive results. So if we understand that, then how do we work on forming better habits that actually last? Well, one way is by attaching our new desired behavior, our new desired habit, to things that we're already doing habitually. Now, first, this requires that we be aware of what we're actually doing. So we may actually have to write it down. Most of us are not aware of the steps that we take in a day. Why don't you write down the things that you do in the order in which you do them right after you wake up in the morning? So this could be, I wake up, I go to the bathroom, I brush my teeth, I go get coffee, I get dressed. Okay, so now think, all right, is there a place where I could insert my 10 minutes of daily Spanish reading? Maybe you say, okay, I think it would be reasonable after I get my coffee for me to read Spanish for 10 minutes before I get dressed. It doesn't matter when you do it, but just make a decision, get as specific as you possibly can with it, and then voice your decision. Okay, I'm going to read Spanish for 10 minutes every day in the morning after I get my coffee at the dining room table. If you're doing that and it's working for you, don't on day 5 do your 10 minutes of reading in Spanish in the bedroom. Don't do that. Do it at the dining room table. Because if you switch locations, if you switch those details, you're not really creating a habit. Remember, habits are those things that we do automatically without thinking. Some habits are always going to be more automatic than others, but there will come a point in which you feel strange. You feel awkward if you don't do this thing that your body is forming a habit of doing. And that's how your habit begins to form. And then you actually start seeing progress toward your goals. And then that progress makes you want to form new good habits in order to continue reaping that reward. All right, guys, that's a little tip that I have for you today. Why don't you try it out? If you're learning Spanish, go download my Spanish Fluency Blueprint. This is a powerful study method that's really based upon choosing a piece of comprehensible input that's interesting to you, that you want to understand, and really breaking that thing down and studying it systematically. So why don't you choose one of those steps? Step 1 is a really good example. It involves listening to that material multiple times and then decide when you can do that every day. Form a listening habit by attaching it to one of the habits that you already have at some point throughout your day. Do this every day. You're going to see amazing results. Like this video if you like it, share it with a friend if you think that they could benefit, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell because I post language learning tips, tools, and strategies, or Spanish comprehensible input in the form of stories or conversations every single week. I will see you guys next time, but in the meantime, don't forget to make language learning a daily part of your routine. Make it a habit. Go out and live a new language today. Hasta la próxima, amigos.